Good afternoon, and welcome to the afternoon session of the Landmarks Preservation Commission's public hearing and public meeting for January 6, 2026. We're going to resume with public hearing item number 8, and I will turn it over to our Director of Preservation, Corey Harala.
Thank you. Public hearing item number 8 is LPC 26-03172, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1010, Lot 7507. 111 West 57th Street, the Steinway & Sons Reception Room and Hallway, first floor interior, individual and interior landmark. This is a neo-Georgian style reception room and hallway designed by Warren and Wetmore and built in 1924 to 25, and the application is to remove a curved display window vitrine.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Cass Stackelberg, Higgins, Grace Barth, and Partners. Nice to see you. Happy New Year. Joined today by Yasmin Walker and Stephen Phipps from our clients at Bonham's Auction House, as well as Chris Nelson of Gensler and my colleague Jonathan Taylor. Bonham's will be moving into the lower portion of the Steinway building, occupying the reception room for a publicly accessible space, as well as occupying floors within the new construction to the east with an auction room, galleries, offices, back of house. Before I take you through the sort of focused, limited scope of work, I thought it might be helpful for Yasmin just to speak briefly about how Bonham's sees this space and the connection between what they do and the publicly accessible nature of this space, and the way Bonham's intends to use it. So before I jump in, Yasmin is going to say a few words.
Thank you. I just would like to thank everyone for hearing us today. I am the head of operations for Bonham's in the U.S. and I'd like to say we're very excited about our move to the space. We've been on Madison Avenue since 2008. So this is a very big move for us. We're increasing the size, but this building in particular is very special to us because of its historic heritage and the way that we use the space. Many of you may not be familiar with our company, but we do a lot of art and antiques. So for us, it is the perfect space and the perfect visual representation and bridge between the modern and contemporary and the antiquities that we showcase. The Steinway Hall in particular is very exciting because it is beautifully done, beautifully restored, and we intend to keep the integrity of the space and are very excited to open it to the public so that they can also enjoy the space.
Thanks, Yasmin. So on the left here is a photograph of the building when it was completed in 1925, designed by Warren and Wetmore. The building was done in a restrained neoclassical style. Steinway occupied the ground floor for their reception room, and then the lower floors and the upper floors were used as rental office space. And then a current view on the right as the building exists today. This scope today is obviously part of a much larger project that Bonham's is taking on, and we're continuing to work with the staff on staff approvals. But what we're talking about today is actually the removal of an interior storefront feature behind this main window. It's not original to the room. It was added in the 1940s, and then portions of it were replaced in the 1990s. Originally, it was a curved window that was intended to actually improve transparency into the interior, but actually, as it exists today, it actually impedes transparency. So you'll see views of this element from the inside, obviously, and the outside. And the goal is to remove it to enhance views into the space. These are two images from the designation report. So the building was designated as an individual landmark in the exterior in 2001, and then in 2013, the interior was designated, and that's shown on the right, and it's the green space here on the ground floor. So the reception room here is the space we're talking about. The reception hall, which is actually the hallway, is part of the designation, and that's now used as a residential entry for the floors above. But Bonham's is going to be occupying basically the new construction that lives over here with a connection into the reception hall here and as well access from the street. And the area that we're talking about today is really right behind the storefront window. And this is a view sort of looking southwest key plan on the right. And it's this curved glass vitrine or shadow box that was installed, as I said, in the 1940s. And originally it was intended to improve views into the space, but now is actually sort of impedes views into the space. I'll also just note, sort of as a style, as a feature in the space, it's somewhat discordant with a Neo-Georgian quality and classical nature of the interior. A view from the exterior, and I'll point out here this sort of heavy header here, and then across the sill, and that's all part of the current installation of this curved box, which basically comes up right behind the exterior glazing here, this sort of three-panel glazing, 3x3 glazing. Originally, 1925 photographs of the building as it was originally constructed, you had this very fine bronze framing that held the windows. All of that remains, but this vitrine now is pushed up behind it, and so it has this header and sill that you saw in the previous photograph. Some photographs also of the interior in the 1920s, just illustrating how the space was used. It was a reception room, furniture, carpeting, and in many ways, it's similar to the way Bonhams plans to use the space. Very small rugs, so you'll be able to actually see the really beautiful marble floor, and then low furniture, movable furniture throughout the space that'll all be publicly accessible. This is another view looking north within the reception room as it exists today. You can see the marble floor. View east, now connecting into this open atrium, this main entryway for Bonhams, and then this view looking back to the vitrine on the interior. On the exterior, just to sort of highlight again the framing element of that vitrine. This is the bottom of the frame, and then this is the top of the frame. So the glazing area is really currently just from here down to here. And with the removal of the vitrine, you'll have full vision glass, and the bronze mullion system will all be retained and repaired on the interior. I'll also just mention that the Steinway Sons signs that certainly will be kept as part of the overall project. So just to sort of explain a little bit about what this shadow box element is or was, and this is an image on the left from the Suites catalog from 1915. And the idea here, if you look at these images here, was that this was basically an exterior feature that was a curved glazed panel that eliminated reflections bouncing directly back. So the idea was it sort of improved visibility to an interior shop space. And so created in the beginning of the 20th century as part of sort of a storefront system, you'd have glazed transoms and then this curving glass. And so the photograph here in the middle from the 1940s, you can see this header here would indicate that perhaps that was in place already by 1940. But by 2001, it's considerably taller. So it looks like it had changed significantly from between the 1940s to the time of designation. So you see this is a bit taller, and the sill as well. This opaque line here, taller than what it had been perhaps when it was originally installed. And then looking back toward the 57th Street window from the interior, there's no way to get to the inside of this element right now, so you can't clean it. And it's a sort of unusual element. And then just the construction of it, right now, it seems like it was the designation report notes that the curved glass was replaced in the 1990s, but it looks perhaps like there were other changes that were made prior to designation as well. The sides of the panels are just sheetrock. There's this corner bead, which was really sort of a construction detail, but it's now used as a sort of a finish. And then the base of it is just plywood. We've been on our hands and knees underneath this as it's open, and the marble floor does continue all the way to the window. So by removing this, we'll actually be exposing the full frame and marble that was there originally. Some additional details just showing the sort of sheet metal attached to the back of the mullion. The bronze mullions will all be retained and cleaned up and repaired, and then a view into the vitrine here from the back side. Just sort of highlighting again, sort of dashed line indicates sort of where those solid panels are. So the vision area really is only here to here, and we'll be expanding that by about a foot on the top and about 18 inches on the bottom. Line drawings, an existing plan on the left, the vitrine is here down on the bottom, plan south, and then showing its removal. And the space will have low furniture, just tables, chairs, rugs, and will be open to the public as we've said. Existing and proposed elevations, just illustrating the removal of the vitrine. Some sections, we think that it's actually a very sort of simple removal. It's probably anchored to the back of the mullions, but we don't really anticipate there being a lot of repair work associated with this removal. Some details illustrating in the various elements of the building. And then an existing view and then a rendered view just showing the sort of opening up of the space, removing the solid portions top and bottom and restoring the bronze mullion storefront system. And then finally another view looking back. This is the original entry from 57th Street. There's a door here that leads to the atrium in the new construction, and then the window, of course, here. And then a proposed view, obviously restoring the full frame of the marble floor, restoring this monumental bronze window, and providing better sort of visual connection from the inside and out to this new public space. We're happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner Chu?
Just that's the simple thing is you said that this was added after,
Right.
but the historic picture seemed to show something wider at that horizontal.
So I'm happy to run back. So the original 1925 photograph.
Yeah.
Sorry. It was not there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, not there. So
No.
basically, we're restoring this back to its original condition, but this was added sometime. The designation report says the 1940s, sometime after World War II, it says. So it was a later addition, and then the designation report notes also that the glass itself was replaced in the 1990s, and it looks like perhaps more than just the glass was replaced, just given the sort of quality of the construction here. So it's a curious feature. It's an interesting element. I think in this space, it is a little bit of a discordant element architecturally. Interesting feature, but I think eliminating it, allowing more transparency into the space from the outside and cleaning up the views out to the street will be an enhancement.
Just out of curiosity, have you seen any of these? This is like, there's that drawing in the suites catalog suggests that you would never have a vertical view.
That was right. So that was
Would work.
right. So I've never seen one in person without, I mean, I've seen this one obviously, but there's a piece of glass in front of it. I'm sure it worked. One of the challenges of this is that this, in section, it's a little hard to see. This is this sort of open barrier.
Right. So
So there's this kind of like, it would have just been like a collector of stuff behind it. And then there was a distance between the barrier and the window of, proportionally, it looks like it's about maybe 2 feet. So it's an unusual thing. In New York City, I'm not sure how well that would have worked.
and it's basically what you want to remove, what it looks like.
Well, there was nothing inside. So there was a void, right? There's a void here, in here, and then this is the storefront window, and then the display is behind the window. So there's not,
Oh.
it wasn't really a vitrine because there was nothing inside of it. It was just a void, and then you look through it and the light bounced off in different directions and not directly back at you. So, right. So, yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Is there anybody in the room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Lee for remote testimony.
Those joining via Zoom who wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. You'll be promoted to panelist, after which we ask you to unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker will be John Graham. We seem to have lost John Graham. So
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. The calendar describes the proposed work as removal of a vitrine, but the object in question is not a vitrine at all. It is a special kind of show window, patented in 1914 by Tron O. Peterson of New York City. We've attached the patent illustration and description to our written testimony, and the applicant added an advertising sketch to the presentation. The presentation material that also describes how the window works. The window was designed to eliminate the reflections that would interfere with pedestrians' views into the interior from the sidewalk, as though there were no glass at all. It's obvious why the Steinway Company would have had such an expensive bent glass window installed, to allow the best possible view from the street into its glorious reception room and to the exquisite pianos within. This window is an especially important artifact today because it connects the exterior of this individual landmark with its designated interior. Besides that, it's a rare and possibly unique surviving example of this interesting storefront invention. We provided a link to a very short video we made demonstrating how this works at the Steinway storefront. Reflections on the outer storefront glazing interfere severely with views to the interior. But when the camera approaches the outer glass, eliminating the reflections from it, the view through the curved inner glass is reflection-free, as though there's no glass at all. We believe that when the special storefront glazing was installed, the lower section of the outer storefront glazing was removed. The poor condition of the outer bronze framing, with damaged and missing pieces, is evidence that it has been altered over its life. At some point, the lower section was reinstalled, thus reintroducing a reflective surface and rendering the non-reflective curved glazing ineffective. Perhaps it is this outer glass that was replaced in the 1990s. That this historic, non-reflective, curved glazing might have been installed later in Steinway's occupancy does not diminish its significance. The Commission should not allow this unique, interesting, and important historic artifact to be removed. This is especially so because there appears to be no compelling functional reason to do so. Thank you very much, Commissioners.
anyone else who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 5 recommends approval.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to the comments?
Just briefly, I think there is a functional reason for doing this, and that's improving transparency actually and getting back to the original condition of being able to see into this space. And I'd also just sort of to put a finer point on views into the space versus just access to the space. So one will be able to stand at this window and look in as it was in 1925, and one will also be able to walk in and go into the space and enjoy the space. So I think as Yasmin has said, and a key piece of Bonham's approach to the project is really sort of bringing life back to the reception room and bringing people into it. And so there'll be clear views in today, better than what exists today, and then obviously public access as well to the space.
Thank you. Commissioners, any final questions? Commissioner Ginsburg?
What's going to happen with this interesting piece of glass when it's removed, if you need permission to remove it?
We haven't discussed it. I mean, the glass, the designation report is very specific about what is historic and what is not. It says the curved glass was replaced in the 1990s. So, but we haven't sort of discussed as to where it would go.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and close the hearing. Commissioner Wilder, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Commissioner Chu, would you second that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. Commissioner Chen, would you like to start this discussion?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is, I guess because it's not it was not originally part of the design. And I can see the condition that it is in currently and the the difficulty in maintaining it and and more importantly, it's not serving its original function, which is that, you want to enhance the ability to see the inside. So I can find it appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Mahan?
Appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I agree, it's painful but appropriate.
Commissioner Wilder?
Find appropriate.
Commissioner Chu?
Appropriate. I think the alternative to this would be to remove the bottom piece of exterior vertical glass and have this there. I don't see that as a proposal that makes appropriate sense here, so I think appropriate.
Commissioner Jefferson?
It's a restoration, not full.
And Commissioner Goldblum?
They might examine the use of.
Thank you. Commissioner Chen, would you read the motion? Thank you.
Polarizer. In the matter LPC 26-03172, 111 West 57th Street, Steinway and Sons Reception Room and Hallway. The first floor interior, individual and interiors landmark. The application is to remove a curved display vitrine. Noting according to the interior and individual landmark designated report, the shadow box window special feature was patented by Tron O. Patterson as early as 1913 and consists of single piece of curved plate glass that projects deep inside the showroom. That the novelty innovation for display windows was to reduce light reflecting off of sidewalks and create the illusion that there was no glass between the passerby on the sidewalk and the showroom, and that it was cited in period publications primarily for early use in high foot traffic parts of LA and New York for expensive products like pianos and automobiles, including the Chrysler Building car showroom. Further noting that the Steinway window was installed after the building was constructed and first appeared in circa 1940 photographs of the interior space, and that the glass in the shadow box window may have been replaced in the 1990s prior to its designation as an individual landmark, based on the 2013 letter from the building's present owner to the LPC. That alterations in the display window prior to the designation have nullified the effectiveness of the shadow box illusion and have made it.
Just hold on. So we're now moving into your recommendation, just so it's clear for everybody.
Yes, yes. I recommend approval, finding that the alteration to the display window prior to the designation have nullified the effectiveness of the shadow box illusion and have made it a relic of its earlier piano showroom days without that context. That the shadow box window was a mid-century alteration, now compromised, remaining in what is otherwise a restored 1925 building and showroom, and its removal will help restore the individual landmark and interior landmark back to its original 1925 conditions. And that the removal of the feature will not detract from the special architectural of historic character of the building or that of individual interior landmarks.
Thank you. Commissioner Mahan, would you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Mark, will you call the vote?
Vice Chair Master,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu, Commissioner Ginsburg,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum, Commissioner Jefferson, Commissioner Mann,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder.
Aye.
8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
That's been approved. Thank you. Let's move to the next item.
Next item is public hearing item number 9, LPC 24-11041, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1335, Lot 22, 45 Tudor City Place in the Tudor City Historic District. This is a Tudor Revival style apartment hotel designed by the Fred F. French Company and built in 1926 to 27. And the application is to establish a master plan governing the future installation of windows and louvers.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for your time. My name is Dane Barnes, partner at BHK Engineering, and our office was hired by the Board of Directors of 45 Tudor City Place to approve a window master plan for the building. The intent of this project and this proposal is to have a complete window master plan for the address. Here are historical photos of the building. We can come back to them, but our proposal is to replicate the style and design of these windows with the new windows. Give you a location. This is in the Tudor City Historic District. The building is located in the red block there, 45 Tudor City Place. To the right is Ralph Bunche Park, and it overlooks the United Nations. This is an image of the west elevation of the building, showing the three types of windows. In general, it's primarily two window types on this building. It's type 1 and 2 in our window master plan. It has a casement design with an inoperable transom at the top. That's window type 1. Window type 2 is a double gang version of that with, again, inoperable transoms at the top and double casement windows. This is the elevation drawing showing the window master plan. The vast majority of the occupiable apartments shown here have windows type 1 and 2. There are variations that I will go into at the end of the project to address HVAC and air conditioning, but these are reviewable at the staff level. This is the east elevation. The central 3 columns of rows are public hallways. It's notable that those windows don't currently meet the past historical design, and we spent time with the LPC staff to make sure that we included reverting those windows back to the historical design. The other rows are apartments, and at the top are the only variations from types 1 and 2, which are bulkhead inoperable windows. This is the east elevation noting all that with the legend to the right. The north elevation has types 1 and 3. The type 3 window is for bathrooms. This is the south elevation, very similar, also with types 1 and 3. And here is the north and south elevations in drawing form. We also include separate elevation drawings for the courtyards on the west elevation. There's the, so this is the north courtyard elevation, images of it, which has types 2 and 5. The type 5 window is a triple gang. And this is the south courtyard elevation, again, of the west elevation. And this is the drawing page showing those elevations as well as the legend to the right identifying the specific window types. This is the window, the proposed window. It's a skyline window, DL96, a casement window, again, inoperable, transom at the top, casement window hinged at the outside jambs with a black UC number 60305 finish. It's worth noting that this window has previously been approved at a number of other Tudor City buildings, including the neighboring 25 Tudor City Place, which is a nearly identical building, and we have images of that later in the slideshow. We'll go over these options as well at the end, looking at the details, but these are reviewable at staff level, and there are 3 options for air conditioning. With casement windows, unlike double hung windows, you cannot just easily install a window air conditioner. So there are through-wall louvers. There's a window air conditioner option with an infill panel, and then there's a smaller louvered option for a floor-mounted air conditioner. This is 25 Tudor City Place. On the left are the windows installed at the penthouse level at the top of the building. matching the historical design and configuration of those windows. On the right is a type 1 window, as well as an example to the right of a through-wall opening for a window air conditioner with a louver to match the color of the historical masonry. I will go through these somewhat quickly, but we have images and drawings of each of the window types, as well as the variations and options. So on the bottom of the page, this is window type 1, and then there's type 1A, which allows for a through-wall a window air conditioner installation. And then there's a 1L, which allows for a louver installation. Here we have window types 2, window types 3, 4, and 5, again with the various HVAC options. Window types 6, 7, 8, and 9. It's worth noting these are all at the bulkhead level. Window types 10 and 11 also at the bulkhead level. Here's a section showing on the left the historical vertical cross-section of the steel framed window. The glass is single pane and there is no insulation. The steel is solid, so the temperature on the outside of the building conducts readily through. The existing windows are also quite old, so the new windows on the right have insulated glass units. So, and they have like a proven thermal envelope. So the new windows will match quite closely to the historical windows, but provide modern engineering performance. The opening does not change at all, and the existing historical frame remains in place, and the new window gets screwed into that historical frame to disrupt the surrounding masonry as little as possible. This is showing the existing historical cross-section on the top and the proposed on the bottom. Again, showing that the opening is not enlarged or changed in any way. As previously discussed, there are 3 options for HVAC. Some of the apartments have terracotta below the window, and so a through-wall air conditioner is not an option on those, which we note in the proposal and on the drawings. Those apartments only can have a window air conditioner opening or a louvered for a floor-mounted interior air conditioner, and the other apartments that don't have terracotta below have all 3 as an option. And these are staff level proposals and have been reviewed quite extensively with the staff up to this point. Here's the detail for the through-wall air conditioner sleeve. Here's the detail for the window air conditioner sleeve surrounded by an insulated panel with color to match the frame. Here's the detail for the louver. That concludes the presentation. And if there are any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay. Is there anybody in this room who would like to speak on this item? Noting that there isn't, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Lee for public testimony.
Those joining via Zoom who wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. You'll be promoted to panelists, after which we ask you to unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker will be Manor Fatima.
Hello. Okay, great. My name is Manur Fatima, and I'm speaking on behalf of HDC. HDC applauds the applicant's decision to create a master plan for the building. However, the windows are a key feature of the building's facade, and we have significant reservations about replacing the original steel casement windows with modern aluminum units. Even if the new windows visually approximate the division and operation of historic steel, the bulk and finish invariably differ. This is especially critical on a landmark where window rhythm and delicacy frame much of the building's visual appeal. The surface applied muntin is completely inappropriate. A simulated product with spacer bar would be more appropriate. If the replacement is phased over years or decades, there would likely be extended periods where the original and new windows intermingle, highlighting mismatch. Given the size of this project, there are window manufacturers who could get a thermally broken steel or aluminum window closer in configuration and muntin sizes to the existing windows. We encourage the applicant to take time and look into manufacturers that can come up with a compatible replacement. We hope to see them work to find a solution that is aesthetically similar to the original as well as functional for the HVAC system. Thank you.
The next speaker will be John Graham.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham for the Victorian Society in New York. We suspect that the multi-light steel casement windows in this building represent one of the largest remaining groups of such windows in the city. Historic steel windows of this type, so strongly associated with buildings of this era, are becoming very scarce. Even the best replacements fail to match their slender sight lines and enlivening details such as projecting hinges. And the replacement aluminum windows proposed for this master plan are far from the best examples of such replacements. Their framing members far exceed the existing dimensions. They are clunky and inelegant compared to the existing windows. But most importantly, the existing windows are original, historic, and represent a substantial portion of the building's visible historic fabric. While a master plan is usually considered advantageous, in this case it is not. It will result in the building having a mixture of obviously mismatched windows for decades to come. We recommend that the existing historic windows be fully refurbished and weather stripped, and that interior storm windows be considered to improve energy efficiency. Thank you, Commissioners.
Anyone else who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 6 recommends approval.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to the comments?
Sure. The existing historical windows are in quite a state of disrepair, but the applicants in the building, they leak. Most times it rains. If anyone's ever lived in a building that has a single pane glass and you put your hand on the window, actually cold radiates through in the winters, and the insulated windows we propose, we think are historically appropriate and will make the residents much more comfortable and allow their building to become more energy efficient. I would also add that the same windows have been approved and installed at 5 Tudor City Place, 25 Tudor City Place, 325 East 41st, 320 East 42nd, 321 East 43rd, and 333 East 43rd Street in the Tudor City neighborhood.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any final questions? Commissioner Ginsburg?
This is really for staff. The true simulated divided lights, is that something we've required in the past?
No, short answer is no. I mean, maybe going back many decades, but the current rules, you know, and as we've clarified them over the years, are quite clear that simulated divided lights can be approved by the staff if all their criteria are met. And further to that, it's really only for small buildings, which are defined as 6 stories or shorter, under 40 feet in width. Do they have to have sort of the internal spacer and interior grills as well? For a large building like this, at staff level, actually you just have to put the grill on the outside of the glass. So I don't remember what the exact detail is here, but it at least conforms with that standard.
Any other questions? Okay, let's go ahead and close the hearing. Commissioner Jefferson, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Goldblum, would you second that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to start this discussion?
Okay. Yeah, I think first of all, doing a master plan is really good. This is clearly in keeping with what we've approved at other buildings in this development and our standards. So this is appropriate as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Commissioner Walder?
Agreed, I could find it appropriate.
Commissioner Chu?
Agreed.
Commissioner Jefferson? Does anybody have any other thoughts?
Ask the applicant to work with staff, they could look at possible ways to reduce the frame size. Possible, I know we can. Well, but I think there might be ways to modify that very heavy
Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, Commissioner Ginsburg, would you like to make a motion and have them just explore it with staff? Thank you.
With regards to LPC 24-11041, 45 Tudor City Place, Tudor City Historic District, a Tudor Revival style apartment hotel designed by Fred F. French and Company and built in 1926-27. Application is to establish a master plan governing the future installation of windows and louvers. I note that the building style, scale, material, and details are among the features that contribute to the special architectural and historic character of the Tudor City Historic District. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed work will not eliminate or damage any significant architectural features, that the proposed black painted multi-light aluminum casement windows will match the original steel windows in terms of configuration, operation, and finish, that the limited change to the size of the aluminum framing and glazing and associated details as compared to the original steel window will be consistent with commission-approved replacement windows at similar Tudor Revival-style apartment buildings within the historic district, that the dimensions and details of the windows resulting from the use of aluminum will be uniform throughout the facade and a discrete variation from the original steel window when seen at a building of this size, and that the establishment of a master plan will help ensure the future window replacement and HVAC installation form a unified pattern harmonious with the building design. I would ask the applicant to work with staff to see if the thickness of the mullions could be at all reduced within this system.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilder, would you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Mark, will you call the vote?
Vice Chair Master?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Drew? Aye.
Aye.
Holden? Jefferson?
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn?
Aye.
Wilder?
Aye.
Favor, none opposed, the motion passes.
That's been approved. Thank you. Let's move to the next item.
All right, next and last item of the day is public hearing item number 10, LPC 26-03782. An application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, Block 1524, Lot 112, 133 East 95th Street in the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. This is a row house originally built in 1889 to 90 and later altered in the neo-federal style by Clinton, Russell, and Clinton in 1932. The application is to construct a rear yard addition.
You good? Happy New Year, and thank you for letting us present. My name is Mark Barak. I'm a principal at DTLS Architecture. I'm here to present this project at 133 East 95th Street. It is a restoration of the front facade and an expansion in the rear. I'm joined here by my clients, Christine and Sahil. They're the owners of the building. They're a young family and they live in the Upper East Side. They love the neighborhood, they love the street, and they love this building. Not only are they raising their children, they also are having their aging parents move in with them. And because of that, it's created the need for an elevator. And that's what's ending up being a major generator of this design. So let's jump into it. The front facade. And let's start going into some of the context. The property is located on East 95th Street. It's bound by Park and Lexington. It's important to note that it's the northern boundary of their property line, which is the end of the historic district. So the buildings on the other side of the donut on 96th are not considered part of the historic district. Zooming in on the actual property itself, it's notable for two reasons. In the 1930s, there was a 5-foot extension built in the front. And also looking at the rear yard, it's a mixture of terraces, staircases, and light wells. It's a really nondescript and poorly designed space. Very good. This project is part of 15 brownstones, but since it built a front addition in the 1930s, it stands 5 feet out and it has a different facade than the rest of the adjacent buildings. And it's interesting because It differentiates itself from the adjacent buildings. It gives the street some character. So much so that the front facade of this building is part of a lot of preservation material for the neighborhood. And specifically the doors, the windows, it's become an icon in the neighborhood. And it shows that sometimes variations can end up adding to the texture of the community. Zooming in on the rear, since that's where we're proposing our addition, it's important to look at the donut as a whole. The buildings on the north side, which are on 96th Street, are large multifamily buildings, some of which extend all the way to their rear property line. On 95th Street, the 15 brownstones in a row, 1/3 of them already have rear additions, some of which are 5 stories or extend the entire height of the building. Also, 1/3 of the buildings have vertical additions already in place. So there's been a lot of variation already to the street. The front facade will be restoring, including new windows. We've been working with our LPC staff member on the appropriate means for getting those done. But the main reason that we want to present to you was to go over the scope of the rear addition. Looking at the rear yard, there's already been a lot of modifications through those 15 brownstones. Most adjacent to the building, to the west, there's a multi-story addition. It goes up 2.5 floors. And to the east, there's large window openings in the back. Looking at our rear facade, none of the openings are aligned, and there's a staircase which is dilapidated and is not really adding much to the neighborhood as a whole. When we originally started this process, the client intended to preserve as much of the front of the building as possible, including the historic staircase in the center of the home. And because of that, we'd planned on putting the elevator in the rear and maxing out the potential zoning for the rear. But working with the neighbors, the community board, and our LPC staff, we reduced the size of this addition by half. But because of that, we had to move the elevator up towards the front of the building. This was a concession that our clients were happy to make, but it is notable that we've already started making adjustments both to the floor plan and the rear facade to stitch it in more with the adjacent buildings. In our proposed rear addition, we are going to be adding new facades to the bottom 3 floors of the building. We picked up on the geometric cues of the adjacent buildings. The upper 2 floors will be keeping the existing headers and sides of the openings. The only modification is that we'll be creating an entry through a door to the upper terrace. Looking at 5 buildings in context, there's not much of a relationship between our building as it currently stands and the adjacent buildings. With our proposed addition, we're picking up on geometric cues primarily from the buildings to the west, including aligning headers and creating a window scheme that stitches well with the adjacent neighbors. It's also worth noting that there's very little cohesive texture to the existing rear facade, whereas our proposal creates a more organized rhythm to the design as a whole. It's even more important when you look at it in terms of the axonometric view. It really shows how there's very little connection between our rear facade and the neighbors. There's 2 neighbors that already have 2.5-story additions. With our proposal, we're picking up on some of the cues from the neighbor to the west, including stepping back the rear addition and using glass handrails to reduce the massing. Sectionally, stepping back allows for more light to enter into the adjacent buildings, and we've also used larger openings to get more light into our building. While we don't want to dwell on the floor plan, we do want to show how the ripple effect of moving the elevator to the front of the building has caused concessions as it works its way up the building. Most specifically, when you get to the primary level, it creates a disconnect between the front and the back of the house. And then when you get to the top floor, where there's already a recessed terrace in the front, the elevator ends up getting in the way of the flow of the plan for the front bedroom. These are all concessions our client's happy to make in order of having a more logical rear addition. We're going to be using Marvin windows to pick up on some of the historic cues on the rear facade, and also creating a stitched network of window sizes and mullions for a cohesive rear view. And lastly, we wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to our presentation. We hope that you're open to our proposal in creating something that creates a more holistic view of the rear facades of not only our building, but the neighbor buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions? Okay. Let's go ahead and see if there's anybody here. Actually, we do have people here who have signed up to speak on this item. When I call your name, please come and state your name and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the podium. Let's start with Julia Bradford.
Hi, I'm Julia Bradford. I live across the street at 126 East 95th Street. The Goat Hill block was largely unchanged for years because of its proximity to 96th Street, once considered a DMZ. You didn't walk on the north side, and people were reluctant to own or rent houses so close to it. Unlike the grander houses to the west, the family-sized houses of the East 90s attracted those who needed space: artists, actors, diplomats, newspaper editors, authors, getting the name of Greenwich Village North. All were content to live in the houses as they were. They were reluctant to fix their front facades, as they hypothesized that the robbers would think the owners were poor and rob buildings in the 70s instead. Because of its location, the block largely escaped the brownstone revival where stoops were removed. The families were congenial, the children roamed house to house and yard to yard, climbing through doors, in the fences, and along retaining walls. When our block was landmarked, there was a sense that the Landmarks Preservation Commission would be protecting our houses from greedy developers. While Landmarks has protected the front facades, they have allowed a steady encroachment on the open donut hole, as this, unlike the facade, cannot be seen from the street. So new owners selfishly see brownstones in their backyards as raw space to create dream houses. Please reject this proposal for 133, which pushes the envelope of development far beyond the minimal rear yard expansions done on our block so far. This open space is so essential to the quality of life in a brownstone and should be valued as much as the front has been, but not space for more elaborate houses that selfishly block their neighbors' light, air, and views of neighboring gardens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we have Christina Clifford.
Hello, I'm Christina Clifford, and we live at 135 East 95th Street, directly next to and to the east of 133. We moved to this block intentionally for the peace, the privacy, and the close community that is Goat Hill. We have lived here for 12 years and raised 3 children and a large dog. As we renovated and restored our house back to a single-family home, we did not add any extensions and found that we have had more than adequate space to raise our family. For comparison, 133 with its 5 floors is currently already more than 32% larger than our home on a square footage basis without the proposed extension. With the proposed extension to increase its square footage by another 24%, 133 would be a whopping 64% larger, dwarfing our home and others around it on our block. This is not Greenwich, Connecticut. Goat Hill is a historic neighborhood and landmark designated for a reason. While the front facade remains important, the rear yards are where we all live. 133's proposed rear extension alters the historic fabric of our block's green central space. The donut that is the hallmark of the block and the neighborhood will be disfigured if this extension is built. Visibility across our gardens will be blocked by a huge 4-story wall in the middle of the block. This proposed extension is not respectful of the existing neighboring buildings and is entirely inappropriate in feel, scale, and design. In terms of its impact on our family directly, we would lose privacy in the backyard as well as in our rooms, which face the backyard. Rear window views from all our floors of our home looking west would be of 133's walls and terraces instead of the sky and our neighbors' lovely gardens. It would take away precious light, reduce usage of our backyard, and lower the value of our home. This proposal is excessive, it is inappropriate, and completely lacks consideration for all the neighbors, as well as the character of this very special block. This proposal, if approved, would also set a terrible precedent. Lastly, I would mention that there is a beautiful tree, some type of cherry, in the backyard of 133 that will either die from being uprooted from their construction or will have to be removed because it is in the path of their extension. We cherish this tree. It sits in front of my office window and flowers in the spring, but has birds that feed from its berries year-round. It is special, spectacular, and its removal will be devastating to us in this wonderful ecosystem in these backyards. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Meg Hirschfeld.
Hello, I'm Meg Hirschfeld, and I live at 127 East 95th Street on the north side of the block. When I purchased 127 East 95th Street with my husband in 1998, there were backyard extensions on either side at 125 and 129. The 125 extension had been added to accommodate an elevator, quite shallow, and the 129 extension to increase the first floor kitchen with a terrace on top. In the summer of 2016, without any permits or notice to neighbors, the then owners of 129 added a permanent second floor enclosure to the first floor extension. It turns out they were preparing to sell 129, and the enclosure increased the second floor square footage and valuation. We returned from the summer and confronted our neighbors that the enclosure was illegal, but it was too late as they had sold the house with the enclosure. We mentioned it to the new owners, but did not want to impair our relationship with them, so did not take it any further. As a result, the 129 two-floor extension has materially impacted the enjoyment and character of our backyard. Since 2016, its light and view have been diminished, and it feels boxed in. More problematically, it has empowered a race to increase extensions in the donut and reduce the originally intended 50-foot backyards to 95th Street's historic townhouses. Look, I have an image of the extensions and the north side, and you can see that unfortunately the precedent for 129 actually created a misguided precedent for 131 extension, and now the proposed 133 extension. As CBA pointed out during its meetings, allowing an extension of this scale would be a terrible precedent, and it goes ahead. Others may well follow and transform this historic street. It's incumbent on all parties to reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Melissa Desori.
Hello, my name is Melissa Desori. I'm here on behalf of myself and my husband to oppose the requested certificate of appropriateness. We moved into the house next door at 131 East 95th last year with our 3 kids. If you haven't been to 95th between Park and Lex, it is a tree-lined street of neo-Grec and Queen Anne style brownstones, and it is truly lovely. It has a distinct sense of place that attracted us to the block long before we realized that it was also full of big, friendly families and just how many people would be wandering by and stopping to take photos because it's beautiful. The proposed renovation of 133 would be inappropriate and out of context on this block. Behind all the houses on the north side of 95th where we live, there is, as you've heard, a uniquely well-preserved donut of green space. It is open and light and airy, and it is full of these mature flowering trees that are home to an array of birds. It is a totally rare treat in the middle of Manhattan. A bulky extension mid-block would be extremely out of place. The proposal far exceeds the mass of any of the extensions into the donut. There are actually only 4, not 5, of the 15 houses that have an extension, and only one, ours, admittedly with the prior owners, builder, was LPC commission approved. And it has a much, much less intrusive design. Directly, as you heard, to the east of 133, 135 has no extension at all, and they will definitely bear the brunt of this added bulk. Allowing the addition to go forward would set a terrible precedent that others could cite to fill in the back and further erode the donut. As you heard also, due to earlier renovations, 133 already extends 5 feet further out the front and is complete with lot line windows on 2 floors on the east and west sides. And we can feel that bulk and lack of privacy and effect on our light. So I can really anticipate what it's going to be like to have an extension like this go on off the back. Adding 1,100 square feet to what's already a 46,500 square foot house is just going to result in one house looming over the rest disproportionately all the more. So with the commission's help, living in a historic district means committing to being a steward of your own home, of the neighborhood, and of the greater community, whether it's in the future or people who wander by. And as I said, they wander by all the time and enjoy the block. The proposed plan doesn't meet that commitment as a steward, and we hope you'll support the preservation and recreational use of this lovely block.
Thank you. Let's go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Lee to see if we have any remote testimony.
Those joining via Zoom who wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. You'll be promoted to panelist, after which we ask you to unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker will be Manor Fatima.
Hello, my name is Manur Fatima. I speak on behalf of HDC. HDC finds the proposed rear yard addition generally appropriate in our established scales. However, we recommend substituting the proposed glass railings with metal railings to better complement the historic character, prevent fires during the summertime, and to provide a more consistent treatment for the yard. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Zainab Turan.
Vice Chair Master, Commissioners, I'm Zainab Turan speaking on behalf of Friends of the Upper East Side. Friends cannot accept this proposal as presented. The building already extends 5 feet further toward the street than its immediate neighbors at the front facade. Given this existing condition, we ask that the applicant adopt a more restrained and context-sensitive approach to the rear yard addition and act as a good neighbor to adjacent properties. As presented or will be presented by Carnegie Hill neighbors, the existing donut green space remains largely intact and should be preserved. Since number 131 is the only LPC approved rear yard addition, we request that a similar volumetric approach be adopted here. A terrace massing strategy with a 5th floor rooftop addition set back from the rear facade would better respect the scale and character of the surrounding row houses, preserve the existing character of the donut, and allow more light into the green space. A 5th floor addition is acceptable only if it is clearly recessed. Otherwise, Friends believes the proposal is top-heavy, intrusive, and incompatible with the surrounding rear yard context. Thank you, Commissioners.
The next speaker will be Lo Vanderwalk. Please accept the invitation to be promoted to panelist.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Lo Vandervalk. I am representing the views of Carnegie Hill neighbors. I would like to call your attention to several points. This 3-story addition is out of scale with the other 14 row houses that share the largely intact donut space north of 95th Street that is within the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. Note that this is already a limited donut space because the contiguous northern half of the block facing 96th Street is not in the historic district. Remarkably, 11 of the 15 row houses have intact rear yards as originally built in 1890. Number 115 at the west end, contrary to maps, does not have a rear addition. Except for number 125, built prior to the 1993 designation, no rear addition is higher than 2 stories. The LPC has been a good steward in maintaining the historic character of the donut space. It did allow, or it's not clear, but the greenhouse at 129 was built. However, the commission required a contextual addition for number 131. It allowed a terraced two-story addition penetrating only 11 feet at the garden level, 5.5 feet at the second floor, and requiring a 6-foot rear setback for the rooftop addition. This is the only rear or rooftop addition for the block approved by the commissioners, and therefore we believe it sets a precedent. Therefore, CHN would support for number 131 to serve as a template for number 133. Number 133, on the other hand, proposes a rear extension of 13 feet instead of the 11 for its neighbor, and about 8.5 feet more for the second floor, which is to be built out fully as the first floor. It also has a 6.5-foot extension for the third floor, while 131 has no third floor. Combined, it will adversely affect the two adjacent houses, especially number 134 to the east, because 135 to the east, because it has no rear yard extension. But most importantly, it sets a terrible precedent for the block. CBA twice rejected this proposal, first in September and last in December. Even if 133 were limited to no more than granted for 131, it would still exceed number 131's rear addition by 6 feet, because number 133 has no rear setback for the rooftop addition built in the 1930s. And finally, in addition, number 133 still benefits from the existing front extension for 3 floors, penetrating 5 feet each, with 4 lot line windows facing east and west. We hope you will see fit to limit the addition. Thank you for your attention.
Anyone else who wishes to speak, please use the raise hand function. Seeing none, I'll note for the record that Manhattan Community Board 8 and 2 individuals recommend denial.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to some of these comments?
If I may, please. I'd first like to address the neighbors. Thank you for coming today. One of you mentioned that you were concerned about developers, and I'd like to point out that these are your neighbors. This is a 3-generation family. They are the definition of the sandwich generation, and they will be living next to you. And I hope that you guys can be good stewards of the neighborhood. I also would like to point out to the commissioners that having worked with the neighbors and the community board and our LPC staff member, we have reduced the size of the addition in half, including making interior modifications to accommodate the changes in the rear addition. But the last is something that I'm far more concerned about, which is that we heard a series of personal grievances, tit for tats, and percentages of which buildings are bigger than theirs, including lifestyle judgments about what's the appropriate amount of space for a multi-generational family. I worry that this is not the forum to be judging the way people live. Last, on a side note, I'd like to reiterate that the tree will be saved. Thank you.
Thank you. Going for questions. Commissioner Goldblum, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about this picture? According to the site plan that shows the rear yard additions, designated the 2 additions to the right of yours as 2.5 stories. Why are you calling them 2.5 stories?
That's a very good question. So the building to the far right has a 1.5 floor height for the greenhouse. And then the building in the middle.
Because the gable pokes up into the window above? Is that what you're referring to?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the building in the middle uses a brick parapet, so it extends higher, whereas we're going to be using glass handrails, which is also a precedent for the neighboring building, so that it reduces the massing.
So, but from a kind of a building department and normal kind of nomenclature perspective, there's 2 levels in each of the neighboring buildings, and there's 3 levels in your proposed addition, floors.
That is correct, but we also want to view it as a massing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Mahan?
Are the
Is the rear wall of the top two floors, which do remain in the same location, being rebuilt or maintained?
They're going to be maintained. And we're going to use the existing headers and sides. The only modification is that we're going to add a central door using the same opening. So we're going to be removing some of the brick to allow for access to the terrace.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, just to follow up on Commissioner Mahan's question. I think there was either a change or a misunderstanding about the top two floors and whether or not they'd be reconstructed. So as the applicant has stated, they don't intend to reconstruct those top two floors, just to clarify.
Thank you. Since there aren't any other questions, let's go ahead and close the hearing. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Walder, would you second that?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the hearing is closed. Commissioner Mahan, would you like to start this discussion?
Sure. I mean, we see many applications like this, with quite a bit of public testimony, others with little to none. But we must, judge it on its architectural and historic preservation merits nonetheless. This particular series of rear yard conditions is fairly intact. It does seem that this would be, in fact, well, modestly, the largest addition. It's appreciated that, it's approached sensitively. It's been reduced. The guardrails, the retention of the fabric at the top, I think, are all positive things. Its scale perhaps is a bit too large as it is, and the applicant might consider reducing it to 2 floors instead of 3 floors, therefore.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg?
I would agree. I'd also say that the bottom addition should line up with 131.
Thank you. Commissioner Walder?
I agree with the previous comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu?
Yes, I would agree that limit it to 2-floor addition and line up with the neighboring, I think it was 11.5 addition neighboring.
Thank you. Commissioner Jefferson?
Would agree. Take my final commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Goldblum?
Also agree. I would just add, we've had a lot of conversations over the years about glass railings. And while they are purported to have a effect on volume, they often don't, either 30 or because they reflect. So if the applicant does want to try to minimize the volume, which is certainly a laudable thing, they might explore cable railing or a narrow picket railing or some other mesh. We've seen lots of, staff can help you with that. There's lots of options on that.
Commissioner Chen?
Agree.
Okay. Corey, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think that we just want to make sure the commissioners are all recommending that the total depth align with the immediately adjacent 131, but that it can go up straight up for those 2 stories. It does not need to set back like 131. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Mahan, are you comfortable reading the motion? I think maybe exploring with staff. Is that okay?
Yeah. Regarding LPC 26-03782, 133 East 95th Street, expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. A row house originally built in 1889 to 90 and later altered in the neo-federal style by Clinton, Russell, and Clinton in 1932, Application is to construct a rear yard addition. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the proposed work will not be visible from any public thoroughfares, that the lower floors of the rear facade are altered, and the removal in conjunction with construction of a rear addition will not damage or eliminate any significant architectural features, that the proposed rear yard addition will not rise to the full height of the building, thereby retaining a sense of the building's original massing and scale, that the proposed addition will be in keeping with other rear yard extensions within the block in terms of projection into the rear yard and will not diminish the sense of openness at the central green space, that the proposed addition will be simply designed and feature brick piers and spandrels, a ratio of solid to void, and a level of articulation that are consistent with other rear yard additions found within this block and historic district, and that the work will not detract from the special historic and architectural character of the building or the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District, and that the rear yard extension further will extend no higher than 2 floors, will extend into the depth of the rear yard no further than the extension at 131 East 95th Street, and that the applicant will explore together with staff alternative guardrail materials.
Thank you. Commissioner Ginsburg, would you second that?
Second.
Thank you. Mark, will you call the vote?
Vice Chair Master?
Aye.
Commissioner Chen?
Aye.
Duke? Aye. Commissioner Ginsburg?
Aye.
Commissioner Goldblum? Commissioner Jefferson? Commissioner Mann?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilder?
Aye.
With 8 in favor, none opposed, the motion passed.
That's been approved with modifications. Please continue to work with staff. Okay. So that concludes our public hearing and public meeting for January 6, 2026. Thank you all for your participation, and we will see everybody next Tuesday, January 13th, for our next public hearing.